Week 9, hey, how are you? The result, what we expected. The numbers, maybe not. Philadelphia Eagles taking down the Houston Texans on Thursday Night Football, 29-17, and what was a closely contested football game for the first 30, and then throughout parts of the second half as well. Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders and company doing enough to get it done here. 29 points, moving to 8-0 on the season. But on the other side of the ledger, Davis Mills was solid. Dameon Pierce, a career day, 27 attempts for a career-high $139 on the ground. But again, it was not enough for Houston, who eventually succumbed to Philadelphia. Now 8-0 to start the season, the best start ever in the history of the franchise. All right, let's dig in with our CBS Sports writer, Tyler Sullivan. Tyler, interesting game here. First 30 minutes, maybe a little bit closer than we expected here coming into this one as Houston hangs around. We'll get to that side first in a moment, but on the Eagles side of the conversation, we've been talking about it all year, their ability to win ball games in different ways. Here, you're a 2-touchdown favorite against a team that should not be on the same field as you 4 days after they just got ran all over. What'd you make of the Eagles' effort here coming out of halftime specifically and the adjustments they made?
Yeah, no, you have to give them credit. Obviously, the Houston Texans gave them their best punch in that first half with 14 points. And then they were able to really hold them to 3 points the rest of the way. Javon Hargrave was an absolute menace on the interior for this game. I believe he had 3 sacks on the night. Just overall, unbelievable performance from rushing the passer. And Davis Mills did some good things, but overall, this defense was able to shut them down as much as Dameon, you had the running games going on there. Dameon Pierce, obviously, running it up and down the field for them. But ultimately, I do want to say this, though, about the Philadelphia Eagles. As much as this is great about them, obviously, 8-0 for the first time in franchise history. They win this game on the road, short week, all that stuff. There is some weaknesses here. They had some, susceptibilities on the edge. The Texans were able to get pressure on Jalen Hurts. Like I said earlier, Dameon Pierce was able to run all over them. You face a more talented team that's able to do those things, and the team that comes to mind to me is the San Francisco 49ers, able to pressure off the edge and run the football effectively. We're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles not only as a regular season team, but as a Super Bowl threat. If they don't fix those weaknesses, that's something that could clip them in the playoffs. So again, something to monitor here. Good on them, able to get the win, but ultimately there were some weaknesses here that need some correction for Nick Sirianni as the weeks go forward.
Yeah, no pictures on the scorecard. It goes down as a W, but they did show some weaknesses. I want to go a little deeper here on the defensive side for the Eagles. Jordan Davis, the big body, the run stopper in the middle of that defense. He injures himself a week ago, goes on IR earlier this week, and that was really where we saw this team susceptible. You spoke to it here positively in terms of Pierce, but is that currently the weakness of this Eagles team if we are going to find one, and if you are a future team on that schedule trying to assemble a game plan to beat this team? Is it right now up the middle?
Yeah, no, that's the way you would attack this team right now. Just like you said, obviously the Jordan Davis injury is massive for this team. You look at what Dameon Pierce was able to do, and then you look down their schedule. This is something that's going to be an issue for this Philadelphia team as we go forward. Not only is Dameon Pierce an effective running back, but they have guys like Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley twice, the Dallas Cowboys rushing attack between Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, Alvin Kamara. You look down the list, even the Chicago Bears, they run the football all the time. You look at what they're able to face. All these teams love to run the football, have guys that are able to do it. Something to monitor here. Again, I'm talking big picture with the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, their unbelievable start to the year. They're going to be probably the number 1 seed in the NFC in my estimation. But when you get into that playoff atmosphere, what do we always say? Can you run the football? Can you rush the passer? Right now, those are the two things that were kind of an issue for them. They were struggling protecting Jalen Hurts in this game a little bit, particularly off the edge, and they struggled stopping the run with Dameon Pierce. You look at the teams that could be in the playoffs. I'm looking at the 49ers. You can talk about the Dallas Cowboys in that same respect with Micah Parsons coming off the edge and what they have in that backfield. That could be a weakness for this team when we look at it from a Super Bowl aspect. Great for them to get this win, but ultimately, like you said, the Jordan Davis injury is on IR. We don't know when specifically he's going to be back. Going to miss the next 4 weeks regardless. That's one to watch here. They need to correct that on the interior of their defensive line.
Hard to be critical of 8-0, but 8-0 is not the goal. It's to be the last team standing. And interestingly enough, the last 10 teams to start their season 8-0, did not win a Super Bowl. It goes back to the 2020 Steelers, who lost in the wild card round, and dates all the way back to the 2011 Packers, who opened up 8-0 and lost in the divisional round. Not to say that indicates any sort of future here for the Philadelphia Eagles, who are still unblemished in this moment. But on the Texans side of this matchup, it feels like they made a statement, and I'm not sure to what ends here, but what did the Texans tell you, I guess, about their makeup, maybe some of the pieces they have moving forward? They got road graded 4 days ago and show up at one of their better efforts here, both offensively and defensively, against what many consider the best team in the NFL.
And not only that, you're missing your top 2 wide receivers in Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins. I mean, that is something that we have to look at here. As much as we're saying that, 17 points, you only were limited to 3 points in the second half and all that, you got to give credit to Davis Mills here, too. That's a tough situation to be put in against this type of defense. Like we were saying, Hargraves was an absolute menace on the interior. You do have to give him credit here. He had 2 picks, but again, those second half interceptions, you're down. You're just trying to make a play. I can almost tuck those away for Davis Mills. But ultimately, this is great for Lovie Smith. This is great for overall the mindset of the Houston Texans. It does feel like they do play hard for Lovie Smith and Pep Hamilton, the offensive coordinator. They were able to do some good things offensively with what they had in terms of personnel at the skill position players, specifically at wide receiver. But again, big picture, what does it actually mean? You're 1-6-1 on the season. You're not going to have a good record. You're going to be drafting in the top 10, maybe even inside, maybe the number 1 overall pick at the NFL draft. More than anything, this is going to be a critical 9 weeks for Davis Mills. He has to solidify himself to this coaching staff, to this organization, that he is going to be the quarterback that they can build around. This is the time. This is the stretch, and he's not going to get another chance, because if he starts to struggle here and he throws more interceptions in critical moments of games, it's going to force them to look at quarterbacks at the NFL draft. They're going to do it regardless, because you have to do that due diligence. But ultimately, Davis Mills, over these next 9 weeks, he needs to convince the Texans that he can be their franchise quarterback. If not, they're going to be looking at C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and all those other quarterback prospects.
Thursday felt like a data point, maybe one to the credit of Davis Mills here against the Philadelphia Eagles, although in a loss. Let's stay big picture, but on the Philly side of things here, because win total preseason was 9.5, and maybe when those numbers came out, we looked at it and thought, 9.5 with the Eagles might be an underlean here, but then they do a lot of great things in terms of roster makeup at both the draft and leading up to week 1, and here they are, 8-0. I mean, 2 wins away from going over that number, and designs well beyond that. Put into words here the first half of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, listen, I'm not going to pat myself on the back here, but I was saying preseason this team could be the number 1 seed in the conference. I'm going to do it anyways. This team had not only an improved personnel, but they also had a very easy schedule. It was one of the easiest strength of schedules in the NFL. So when you combine all of those things, naturally, you're going to have a successful season, or at least project to have a successful season. For me, it's been Jalen Hurts and his development as a passer. And I've talked about this a lot. I do think that the addition of A.J. Brown is similar to what you see in Miami with the addition of Tyreek Hill to improve what Tua Tagovailoa is doing, what Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen. When you put those premier wide receivers, it just calms down the offense, and it really makes life easier for all those other skill position players. And so for me, that's one thing that I think has gone a little bit underrated, just the massive impact that A.J. Brown has put on this offense and really what it's done for Jalen Hurts. Again, credit to him, too, for just improving his overall game as a passer, polishing that part of his game. But ultimately, I do think that the additions that Howie Roseman was able to make in the offseason are just absolutely massive. And then when you start, again, look big picture, you look at this schedule, it's extremely favorable. I think that maybe their most difficult game left on the schedule is all the way in week 16 when you face the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. Other than that, you're talking about playing, look at it, Taylor Heineke, Sam Ehlinger. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a tough one, but ultimately they're not as good as what they've been in recent past. To me, you look at the schedule, you look at what they've been able to do this season, it's going to be a very promising end to the season that could very well, when you look at the schedule, end in 17-0, which is crazy as that may sound.
Unbelievable stuff thus far by the Eagles. We'll see what they've got in them here down the stretch run. We're going to run my favorite route right now. You, Pat, I go. Thank you, Tyler. And don't forget, the conversation continues on the premier pod in the entire NFL. It's the Pick Six Podcast. Will Brinson, John Breach, Ryan Wilson, each and every day, everything you need to know across the league that we love. Download, subscribe, and enjoy the Pick Six Podcast. All right, your fantasy is always our reality as we take a look at some of the numbers attached to the names. Jalen Hurts, 243 through the air, still no interceptions, no giveaways, got a good streak going there. They did fumble it once, just the third giveaway of the season for this Philly team that's kept it clean for the greater part of this year. 23 points there for Hurts. Dameon Pierce had himself a career night with 139 yards, but that's all he gave you because he didn't get to the end zone, so 13 points is where he lands. Miles Sanders and A.J. Brown in that neighborhood as well. Dallas Goedert got to the end zone for 6 more, totaling 24.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.